Now, first things first, it seems like, there's a bit of a women's revolution in wrestling, and Ring of Honor with the Women of Honor are definitely playing a big role in that. What do you think about this women's revolution?
Well, as a woman who has always been very independent and driven, it's kind of strange for me because the way I was raised and the way my family always was, the women were seen as capable individuals, and we actually, I had an older brother and I have an older sister and a younger sister, and all of us have always been very competitive with each other and ourselves and other people, male or female. So I've seen some things throughout time where there was sort of this gender division. One example is when I was in elementary school, and there was, I don't know if anybody remembers doing the presidential physical fitness test, and there were different requirements for the boys and the girls, but not only that, there were actually different movements. So for the boys, I think in like 7th and 8th grade, they would hold an isometric push-up, and the girls just had to do like 20 modified push-ups. But it wasn't even something where the girls even had the option to do the isometric push-ups. And my older sister, when it came time for her to do that, she said, well, I can do the isometric push-up and hold it for a minute, so I want to do that. And there was some pushback, and they didn't want to let her do it. And for her, there was no challenge to do the modified push-ups. And I remember my dad being extremely supportive, and my dad and my sister and I would all practice at night after dinner and before bed. We would practice our isometric push-ups, and my dad, went to bat for my sister too, and got the school to let her compete to do the isometric push-ups. But when they put out the results, even though she had beat all of the boys, she was not listed at all. And since she didn't do modified push-ups, she was not listed with the girls at all. So that was something that it was just kind of, it's been all these years and it stuck with me. So then, of course, when it was my turn, when I got to that grade 2 years later, they already saw it coming, and they already said, no, absolutely not. We're not letting you do it. And so I saw some of that kind of gender bias just culturally and socially back then. But it was so shocking to me because that just wasn't how my family was. When I was 5, my brother was a freshman in high school and going to wrestling practice and coming home and practicing, wrestling with me, and I learned, a half Nelson and an inside cradle, and he, do it with me and then teach me how to do it and expect me to, to do it. And he'd show me how to do this stuff at 5 years old and expect me to do it. And then, my dad and my brother were teaching me how to throw a punch when I was 7 or 8, and my standing there and for me to punch him, and my dad, giving me pointers. So that's where I came from. And then as I kind of, experienced how, how some of the rest of society and culture views things, it's like maybe people are starting to realize what some of us have always known. And it's great to be a part of that and to get to sort of start to see that recognition and that acceptance. And I think that something that's really important to me is what I'm leaving behind and what we're all leaving behind for, the young kids right now. So for me, it's always been very important that the young girls can look to me and look to my colleagues and see that they do have infinite options, and they don't have to be pretty and that's all they can be. And if they're an athlete or they're tough, doesn't mean that they're not pretty, and if they're pretty, it doesn't mean that they're not smart, and they can be all of the things they want to be, and none of them are mutually exclusive. And I don't want those girls to grow up and experience the things that my sister and I did, where we had those instances of really discrimination, and I don't say that as to say that I've really been I don't think I've been held back, because I don't really allow things to hold me back. I just keep going and finding ways and working hard. But that was an experience that I had where that does exist, and some people certainly experience it to much higher degrees than I ever did. And anywhere we can minimize or eliminate that is something that I want to be a part of.
And Ring of Honor, their influence on the wrestling business is pretty substantial. If you really look at even WWE today, look at all the guys that they have taken from Ring of Honor or that have grown through Ring of Honor. So when Ring of Honor kind of builds something, it really means something. It's really substantial in the wrestling business. So when they are building this women's division, do you take a lot of pride in that? Because you've had quite a dominant run within this women's division so far in Ring of Honor with the Women of Honor.
I don't think I've ever told anyone this, but when I first started wrestling, I just never thought that I would be good enough to work for Ring of Honor, because it was held in such high regard, and you had to be so good. And I, at the time, I was trying and I was training, but I knew that I wasn't there yet, and it seemed so far off that I could be a part of that. And part of that too was just because there was an element of time involved, where in my mind, and partly because of the culture that I think really it exists everywhere, but also definitely in the past years in WWE, there has been this culture of just a very limited shelf life for women, where you could have a man competing into his 40s and then into his 60s, but there were very, very few and far between instances where a woman in her late 20s to her 30s to her 40s would be competing. So to me, when I was training, it was like, okay, I only have so many years and I have to get that good. And it seemed just like a really insurmountable challenge. So I didn't just decide, okay, well, if I can't do that, I'm going to quit wrestling. But I didn't know if I could get to where I needed to be within the time that I felt like I needed to do it. So over the last couple of years, I was very, very fortunate to have the opportunity to train with Les Thatcher, and my knowledge and my foundation and everything really just grew leaps and bounds from working with him and working with the other trainers that he worked with. And also because I didn't inhibit or I didn't use the age thing to say, okay, well, I had my birthday, guess it's time to quit. I didn't stop myself. So, if nobody was going to tell me, hey, you're too old, you can't be here, then I was going to keep showing up. And I did, and I worked hard, and I finally decided to just take that kind of jump and go to the Ring of Honor tryout. And I finally had kind of learned over the years that if you don't go and try, then the answer is always no. So if I kept telling myself, oh, I'm not ready for that, then I was just never going to have the opportunity. I had to at least go and try, and the worst they could say is not yet. But, at least I'd be that much closer. So I went, and I worked really hard at the Ring of Honor seminar and tryout camp, and I got an opportunity. And whether I felt like I was ready for it or not, I knew that I had to be ready and get ready and just work harder and harder and just really be worthy of that opportunity. And then as I started to have, just more opportunities and having some really amazing opponents to work with, and getting to main event on the women's shows, and be part of the historic women's episode, things like that, or just never even things that it crossed my mind to even imagine. So it's very humbling, and it's something that I take very seriously, and that I really I appreciate the opportunities, and it does just reinforce the fact that if you really do work hard and then you go and you take those chances, that you may find yourself in a place where you have some really amazing opportunities. And with that, I know that I'm not anywhere near finished, and I've got a lot left to accomplish. I still am continuing to learn and just try to get better every day. And I always kind of joke with people, especially when they complain about birthdays. I say, well, I love birthdays. I get better every year, and that's what I'm striving to do. And so, I'm never like, oh no, I'm going to be old. I'm like, no, yay, I'm getting better and better. And the more time that goes by, the better I get. And that's the goal. And that's what I'm working toward, and just always trying to be ready for the next opportunity that comes my way. And being able to work with all these women and the men at Ring of Honor, and being a part of that is just something that's really, really cool and really exciting.
And that is great to hear. So, the best way to look at it, and you think about it, you went from the tryout camp, or, the ROH seminar, to, your debut, and kind of fast forwarding to where you are now. And obviously it's a huge show. It's a super card of honor. What is your feeling on being a part of that show? Obviously you're going to be wrestling Deonna Purrazzo. So what's your feeling on kind of not only making it an ROH, but making it to the big dance?
I think that a lot of times I'm aware of things that are going on, but until it's actually happening and until I'm walking, to the ring, it's not quite official. Just because I know, things can change all the time. So I'm just always trying to be ready and get ready to go, be there and do the best I can. And I think it may really sink in. I know I've been reading, and I'm sure a lot of people have been seeing that we have, been breaking records in attendance for Ring of Honor. And I know it's really an exciting thing to bring together several big, well-known, well-established companies. So it's definitely exciting to be part of, and it's another instance where it makes me think that I've got to keep stepping up, and I've got to be ready for this opportunity, and I've got to be worthy of every opportunity, and just give it my all every time. And Deonna is somebody who I've wanted to work with for a long time, because I think that she'll really challenge me and push me, and that's how I get better. So I've really been, I've subtly and not so subtly, I've been, dropping hints that I want to get in the ring with Deonna, and I'm hoping that we really get to both just push each other and challenge each other, and I think that we're both going to come out better for it.